Welcome to the deep dive. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Ever looked at those AI leaderboards and thought, yep, that's the definitive ranking?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're everywhere.
Well, get ready for a bit of a behind-the-scenes peek, because today we're diving into why those seemingly straightforward scores, especially on platforms like Chatbot Arena, might be more of a funhouse mirror than a straight reflection of how good AI models truly are.
That's right. We've all seen these rankings pop up in news articles, maybe even informing business decisions. They're treated like the ultimate scorecard for AI progress.
Definitely.
But what happens when the game itself has some, let's say, quirky rules we don't fully see?
Exactly. And that's where this super interesting study comes in. It's called the Leaderboard Illusion. And it took a really close look under the hood of Chatbot Arena. Think of this as your express lane to understanding some of the potential quirks and getting a much more nuanced and frankly more interesting view of AI evaluation. We've got the study itself and some cool data analysis to share, and trust me, some of it is genuinely surprising. Our mission: to unpack what's really going on with these Chatbot Arena rankings and what it means for how we understand the AI race.
Okay, so Chatbot Arena, it's become this go-to spot for comparing AI models in a really dynamic way, right?
Right.
You throw in a prompt, two anonymous AI respond, and you pick the winner. It took off because those old static benchmarks just weren't keeping up with how quickly AI was evolving. It felt more real world.
And what's fascinating here is just how influential it's become. This study points out that media, the whole AI industry, even researchers in academia are using these arena rankings as a key way to size up these generative AI models.
It's got serious clout, no doubt.
Huge clout.
But here's the twist. The study highlights the risk of what's called Goodhart's law. You know the one.
Remind.
Essentially, when a measure becomes the target, it stops being a good measure. So if everyone's laser focused on topping that leaderboard, are they truly making progress in ways that matter beyond, that specific platform?
Ah, right. Gaming the system, basically.
Sort of, yeah. Or at least optimizing for the test itself.
Which leads us to something really intriguing the study found.
Well,
Some pretty significant behind-the-scenes differences in how various AI developers get to play the game on Chatbot Arena.
okay.
One of the big ones is undisclosed private testing.
Yes, this was a key revelation. The researchers discovered that certain big players, they mentioned Meta, Google, and Amazon by name, seem to have had the ability to test multiple private versions of their models.
Without publicly revealing all those experiments.
Exactly. They could run tests, see the results, but it wasn't a public knowledge which specific versions were being tested or how many.
The sheer scale of this is kind of wild. Between January and March 2025, Meta apparently tracked 43 private variants.
43.
Yeah.
27 for the main leaderboard and another 16 for their vision-focused one. Google had 10 in the same period.
Wow.
Now, compare that to someone like Reka, who the study notes only had one variant tracked.
That's quite a difference. And it maybe helps explain some things. Like when you see those rapid shifts at the top of the leaderboard, remember OpenAI's GPT 4.5 and xAI's Grok 3 hitting #1 on the same day?
Yeah, I remember that.
Or the constant back and forth between Google's Gemini and OpenAI's ChatGPT 4o. This private testing might offer a clue. It raises the question, how much this rapid progress is happening in the public eye, and how much is the result of these behind-the-scenes tests?
Right. And this private testing enables what the study calls a best-of-N strategy. Think of it like this. You secretly try out a whole bunch of slightly different versions of your AI.
Okay.
You see which one performs best in the arena, and that's the one you roll out publicly. Figure 8 in the paper really nails this, showing how a model family that isn't amazing on average can still look like a superstar just by having lots of chances to hit a high score. So you only show your winning lottery ticket, essentially.
Pretty much.
And what's particularly interesting, or maybe concerning, is that academic labs didn't seem to have the same access to this private testing sandbox. This suggests that the leaderboard playing field might not be as level as it appears, with some, well-resourced companies having a distinct advantage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Another eye-opener from this study is the difference in data access.
Ah, the data itself.
Right. It turns out some providers are getting way more information from the user interactions on Chatbot Arena than others.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about bragging rights. This data is gold for further refining their AI models.
Exactly. Several things contribute to this. Naturally, if you're testing tons of private versions, you're generating more data just from those tests.
Sure.
But the study also points to differences in sampling rates, meaning some models are just shown to users for a comparison much more often than others.
Oh.
And they also mention silent model deprecation, where models are effectively taken out of rotation without a formal announcement, which also affects who gets data from ongoing comparisons.
The numbers here are pretty dramatic. Figure 4 shows that OpenAI, Google, Meta, and Anthropic collectively grabbed nearly 63% of all the data from Chatbot Arena.
63%, just those four.
Just those 4. That's about 68 times more data than top academic and nonprofit labs combined.
Wow, that's huge.
And Figure 3 backs this up, showing that proprietary models consistently get the lion's share of the battle data, somewhere between like 54% and 70%. And Figure 5 shows the sampling rates. The big players like OpenAI and Google can have rates up to 10 times higher than some others, like StepFun.
And this data advantage can really impact performance, right? It's not just collecting data for fun. Figure 10 in the study shows an experiment where increasing the amount of Chatbot Arena training data from 0 to 70%, well, it more than doubled the model's win rates on a related benchmark.
Double?
Yeah. It creates a kind of feedback loop where those with more access to the Arena data can further improve their performance on the Arena itself.
Which helps them climb the leaderboard even more.
Right, okay.
It's a potential reinforcing cycle.
Then there's the slightly shadowy area of model deprecation.
Ah, yes. Taking models out of the running.
The study found that a significant number of models were silently deprecated. Their sampling rate just quietly dropped to almost 0 without any public heads up.
Even if they didn't officially meet the criteria for removal.
Apparently so. It's quite a difference. 205 models were silently sidelined compared to only 47 officially deprecated, based on the stated policy.
And the policy itself. I recall the study mentioning it's a bit vague, based on votes, recency, price, quality. But how exactly that's weighed isn't totally clear, especially since lots of models on the Arena are free anyway.
Exactly. And this silent disappearing act can make the rankings over time a bit unreliable. The kinds of questions and tasks on Chatbot Arena aren't fixed. They evolve.
Right, the landscape changes. So if a model's past glory was based on older trends, and it's then silently removed, its historical ranking might not tell you much about how it would stack up against newer models on newer tasks.
They used that fun analogy, didn't they? Like chess and tennis.
Yeah. Being great at chess doesn't mean you'll be great at tennis.
Mm-hmm.
The skills aren't directly transferable, just like performance on one type of prompt might not guarantee performance on another.
And Figure 14 in the study illustrates this by showing how removing a model just when the popular types of tasks are changing can lead to some really wonky rankings.
Makes sense.
Plus, as they point out, if lots of models get quietly removed, you end up with less data to directly compare the remaining ones, which makes the whole ranking system less statistically solid over time. You get sparser comparisons.
Right, less head-to-head data. Okay, one last thing that caught my eye was the bit about prompt duplication and distribution shifts.
Yeah, the actual questions people ask.
Apparently the questions people are asking on Chatbot Arena aren't always unique, and the general flavor of questions changes over time.
Exactly. Figure 11 shows how the language of the prompts has shifted, and figures 12 and 16 show there's a fair amount of prompt repetition.
So if you're a provider with access to lots of recent prompt data, you might have an edge in anticipating what kinds of questions your model will face in the future evaluations on the platform.
That seems plausible, yes. You can tune your model towards the current trends in user prompts if you have enough visibility into them.
This study also suggests there might be a bit of a bias in the user base too, because there's a character limit on prompts, and the users tend to be more tech-focused.
Developers, maybe?
Yeah, perhaps. So certain types of questions might show up more often. They make a joke about maybe seeing more Star Trek questions than questions about, say, Chaucer.
Yeah, right. Potential skew in the input.
So bringing it all together, what are the big takeaways here?
Well, the study reveals a few key things, really. First, there seems to be an uneven playing field due to this private testing and the different levels of data access. Some players just have more resources and opportunities within the Arena system.
Okay. Uneven field.
Second, there's a lack of clarity around things like model removal. this silent deprecation makes it hard to track performance reliably over time.
Transparency issues.
Right. And this all means that AI developers might be, consciously or not, optimizing their models specifically to score well on the leaderboard.
Chasing the score.
Which isn't necessarily the same as making broad, meaningful progress in AI capabilities across the board.
So, in the end, it looks like those Chatbot Arena rankings might give us more of a fun, maybe engaging, but potentially misleading snapshot than a truly definitive picture of AI capabilities.
Precisely. While Chatbot Arena has definitely been valuable, it gave us a useful way to see how people perceive AI models in direct comparison.
Yeah, it served a purpose.
But these findings suggest we should take those top spots and the rapid shifts with a bit of a grain of salt. It's not the whole story.
So, for you listening, what's the big takeaway? It's that the AI race isn't quite as simple as just glancing at a leaderboard.
Definitely not.
There are a lot of interesting, complex dynamics happening behind the scenes that can influence those rankings. So next time you see one, maybe remember that it's just one piece of a much larger and more complex puzzle.
And the researchers behind the leaderboard illusion actually offer some interesting ideas for how to make these evaluations better, fairer, more transparent.
Ooh, like what? Briefly.
Things like more transparency about testing protocols, equalizing data access perhaps, clearer deprecation policies. The paper lays out 5 critical recommendations.
Interesting. So if you're curious about those solutions and the deeper methodology, definitely check out the original paper.
Yeah, it's worth a look if you're really into this stuff.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us. It's definitely given me food for thought about those rankings.
Me too. Always more nuance than meets the eye.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Until our next exploration.